So we've talked a lot in previous episodes about how hard it is to put Mac devices in a Windows-centric environment. And the complexities change depending on the size of the organization or exactly what the use cases are in that organization. So I've invited a good friend of mine, Matt Carey. Welcome to the show.
Hey Kevin, thanks for having me.
Matt runs our MVP support team. So Matt, tell us a little bit about how you started at SHI, when you started, and kind of, the difference between a greenfield environment and what might be an old traditional Windows environment.
I started in a group at the time that was really focused on delivering managed services and professional services to our enterprise, large customers, our global customers. I think what we've seen over that transition is not only customer-wise from the organizations we're supporting, but the type of users or the type of resources on my team have asked and looked at how they support customers differently, and a lot of that comes down to the device they use. So Windows versus Mac versus some of the other devices out there. So it's been interesting.
It is a personal preference. I mean, which side are you on? Do you use a Mac for work or do you use Windows?
I'm a Mac guy. I don't think I even know how to turn on a Windows computer at this point. If you put it in front of me, I wouldn't know where to go. I've been on a Mac for years and years. I'm one of the guys that I have an Apple Watch, I have an iPhone, I have an iPad, I have AirPods, and I have a Mac, and I upgrade them about every year.
But you primarily do Windows services, is that what I'm hearing?
But yes, 90 to 95% of our support is Microsoft-led in Windows.
So talk about being in a cloud-based environment. Is that different from, say, a legacy organization, sort of large? You talked about large enterprises globally. I would have to say that they're struggling to get to the cloud, but you were born in the cloud. So tell me the differences there and why that matters in putting Mac in your environment.
Yeah, our team took a more modern approach when we were developing the structure and the resources we needed. So instead of looking at, even internally, instead of looking at leveraging our own data centers and some of our own internal legacy applications, we went and procured our own services that more aligned to the direction and the scale and the speed at which we had to deliver the services. So born in the cloud, all SaaS-based, all remote. Our entire organization globally is remote. We have presence in 5 countries, including the US. So for us, it was really about delivering the best experience for our team, so that way we can support our customers better. But we don't care about the traditional complexities of large global organizations. We don't have to worry about complex networks. We don't have to worry about accessing legacy Windows-based applications. For us, as long as there's a strong enough internet connection, we can do our job. So that's why.
So you said 5 countries total, or that's U.S. plus 5 other countries?
That's U.S. plus 4 other countries, so 5 countries total. For the representation of our team. We support customers in over 40 countries today.
And you're doing this with, how are you managing all this? With Jamf, with Intune? Like, what's your way to keep these devices secure?
We've used Jamf in the past, but we're actually using Intune now. So there were some learning curves that had to happen as we were learning how to properly ingest a lot of Mac devices and get them into our management tools. But we are 100% Microsoft-centric as it relates to our management tools. So it didn't make sense for us to necessarily use Jamf anymore. So we are Intune on everything. So we use
ABM, or Apple Business Manager, for the provisioning, and then that pushes, or the security stuff, the applications come in through Intune though, not Jamf.
That's correct.
And how has that process been? Does that work?
Once you learn a couple of the nuances and the intricacies of the platform, it does work quite well, actually. I mean, I'm not on the engineering side. I'm actually on our business development and sales side, and I was actually able to enroll 15 devices myself.
Okay.
Package them, repackage them back up, and obviously I had the help of my technical team, but package them back up and get them out the door to our team that we're actually excited to learn and that we're going to get a new MacBook.
So Matt, you and I discussed how you went from Jamf to now Intune to manage your Macs. But what's the ratio within your organization of Windows devices versus Mac devices?
In our organization, we're still probably 80-20 Windows. It's I think that there's probably technical alignment there that makes sense to still for us keep a lot of the engineers on Windows at times. But what's interesting is we support a lot of global customers, a lot of large organizations with a big population of devices. So we've seen the mix. We've seen a lot of the more legacy organizations still on Windows with considering this adoption of Mac devices or giving their employees choice. We've also seen it the other way too, where agencies or people on the creative side or in the production side, some of the large organizations there have gone more in the Mac direction because of some of the functionality they get. So I think that the business requirements and the type of business, at least from my perspective, probably drive some of the interest to change. And that probably also drives a lot of the management platforms as well. So the Jamf versus Intune and the Intune versus Jamf, I think there's
So what should
probably
people think
technical
about
reasons.
then if they're 80-20 like you?
Mhm.
What should they be thinking about? What is the deciding factors between, Jamf, Intune, say Workspace ONE, Kanji, or one of the other 5 or so MDM solutions that can manage Mac?
For us at least, and I think for the organizations we're talking about, I don't think it's a small undertaking for anybody I think you need to be really, really honest with yourself and with your organization to determine cost, bandwidth, migration strategies, capabilities of actually making a move.
Usually I hear cost as the deciding factor, by the way. Jamf is X, Intune is Y,
Yeah.
so CFOs are making the decisions, not the CTOs or the IT directors. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think cost for anything net new is challenging, but I think we also have to look at cost versus value. And if you already have licensing that gives you access to Intune, it's already included in your Microsoft Enterprise licensing. So I think a lot of that, when we talk about cost, there's a lot of that decision also being made. So we need to stop, or at least for the organizations we're working with, there's a goal to obviously reduce operating costs, but also to stop paying twice for applications or services that people are using. So I think when we consolidate cloud services, that's a big component.
Yeah, one of my colleagues call it tech sediment, right? Where you buy something and you never sunset it. You just buy the next tool and you layer it on top.
Right.
You're one of these hybrids. The reasons why I invited you is because you're in between the technical engineering piece and the executives. You're able to talk tech, but then understand the business objectives of the C-suite. So how is it different for the different use cases within your organization? Engineering with Macs versus, say, the CEO or the COO?
Yeah, so some of our engineers still have a requirement to have Windows PCs for the type of work they have to do for whatever it is. So a lot of them will have preference will be Mac because of the interoperability and the usability. We all on our team also use like the basic functionality of Mac, iMessage and things like that to communicate more effectively. It's really unique and it's really helpful. We can text each other as a tool like another email. When we start to talk about our C-suite and our executive layer, that's where things actually probably got the most challenging. So when you have people set in their ways, you have sometimes the C-suite is a little bit older, right? They're not so much on the cutting edge. The training element was a little different. Trying to get that adoption and walking some of the executives through how to log in, how to look at your file structure differently. A lot of the stuff that if you have worked on a Mac for a long time, it just comes very easy, but your hotkeys are different. Everything is different about the Mac OS.
That's so interesting. I think a lot of people think it's the technology itself, but it's really the training, it's the communication plan. It's like, where's my start button, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
And how long did that take to kind of get people up to speed? Is that still in process?
Still in process.
Yeah.
I still get a call. Because I'm a big proponent of pushing the Mac devices to most of the organization. I think it's from a management perspective, they're easier to manage. I think they break less, and so it's helpful for our team. They last longer. Yeah, I choose to replace mine all the time because I like the bells and the whistles, but you don't need to. I've had Macs for years.
Are you M2 at this point?
I am, but a lot of our team is still on the M1, and they're perfect computers. But It is a process, and I think we didn't realize it was as much of a process, and we didn't have necessarily the right internal mechanisms in place to deal with some of those questions, because there's more questions than we anticipated. So I think that if we were to redo this, strategy and communication would absolutely be more on the forefront than just focusing on the technology side. That kind of caught us off guard. One of the reasons why we're going down this path with Mac, one, I think it's a great platform, but two, even from a recruiting perspective in a really challenging market, choice is an interesting value add and benefit for when we're talking to new engineers and new resources for our organization. So giving them the choice to choose between a Mac and a Windows and whatever, and not limiting them, is actually a nice sales pitch. It's, for whatever reason, it's one of those things that we're seeing a higher success rate with recruiting because of it. So something to think about.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Kevin.